Hey y'all, I'm Diann Bayes, founder of How Big is Texas and your go-to guide for Lone Star State adventures. Thanks for joining me on today's Texas Quest. When I learned last fall that Route 66, the Mother Road, would turn 100 years old in 2026, the same year of the USA's 250th anniversary, I knew it was time to finally make the trip I'd dreamed about for years. Now, I've always loved road trips. In fact, my blog, How Big is Texas, was born out of a journey to drive the entire perimeter of the home state back in 2020. It's hard to believe it's been 6 years this month. Now, my Route 66 trip totaled more than 4,800 miles and included the drive up to Illinois, the route itself, and the drive home from California to Texas. My 84-year-old Aunt Ruth came along for the ride, and let me tell you, after days in the car together, we're still speaking, which is a miracle in itself. Our Route 66 adventure didn't actually begin on Route 66. It started nearly 900 miles away in Northeast Texas at the official international world headquarters of How Big is Texas. We drove through Arkansas, watching the landscape change as we made our way north to Illinois, the land of Lincoln. Most Route 66 travelers start right in Chicago, but since I'd just visited and already had plenty of photos, and if I'm being honest, didn't want to tangle with the city's traffic, we began our journey a little further south in Wilmington, a little over 60 miles from the Windy City. Route 66 isn't just a road. It's a living legend stretching nearly 2,500 miles across the heart of America. On this journey, we saw just how big and beautiful the USA really is. Driving nearly 2,500 miles on the Mother Road, the landscapes told its own story. In Illinois and Missouri, endless fields of golden canola and corn rolled by. As we headed west, plains gave way to wooded hills, then to mountains and deserts. The geography changed with every hour on the road, and so did the character of each town we visited. Route 66 is 100 years old this year. We thought about the generations who'd made this trek before us. Families in Model Ts, travelers relying on paper maps, facing rough roads, scarce water, and slow cars. Today, with GPS and air conditioning, it's still an adventure, but one you can do in days instead of weeks. Although we skipped downtown Chicago this time, and I have to mention some of my favorites that you should really take in while there. Get your picture in front of Cloud Gate or the bean-shaped mirrored art installation in the heart of the city. Visit the Art Institute of Chicago. Enjoy deep dish pizza at any number of pizza joints, and grab a classic Chicago hot dog. The starting point of Route 66 is near the Art Institute, though the official sign has moved to Navy Pier earlier this year. Starting in Wilmington, Illinois, as I shared earlier, we immediately felt the thrill of joining a true American tradition. The journey started with a look at the weird and eccentric Gemini Giant, also known as Muffler Man. We would encounter similar large characters the entire trip. What a way to start. As we drove south, the fields of yellow caught our eyes. Turns out those were canola flowers. I've cooked with canola oil for years, but I never thought about where it came from, or that it grew in Illinois soil, or that it was even a plant. Small towns along the way, Pontiac, McLean, Springfield, and Stanton, offered their own slice of Americana. Springfield was a highlight. Standing on the steps of Abraham Lincoln's home was an incredible experience. Knowing this past president once stood where I stood was a lot to take in. And kudos to Illinois for doing a fantastic job marking Route 66 historic exits, so we knew exactly where to turn off to see murals, diners, and quirky roadside stops. Crossing the Mississippi River into Missouri, the landscape shifted quickly from flat fields to the rolling, wooded hills of the Ozarks. We paused at the St. Louis Arch that gleamed gateway to the west, and imagined all those who'd done the same before heading back out on Route 66. Uranus Fudge Factory is a must-stop for anyone traveling this stretch. You'll reminded of the exit to Uranus every few miles by the vast number of billboards along the way. They reminded me of marketing for Wall Drug along Interstate 90 in South Dakota, encouraging you to stop at the eclectic roadside attraction. The fudge is definitely worth it, and you can tell the staff there enjoy their jobs. We spent quite a while walking through the aisles, and I giggled like a 12-year-old boy at the various innuendos. In towns like Sullivan and Joplin, we stumbled on more classic diners. Missouri's Route 66 felt like a living museum where nostalgia and warm hospitality are everywhere. Kansas claims the shortest stretch in Route 66, just 13 miles, but it packs in plenty of charm. In Galena, Riverton, and Baxter Springs, we found vintage gas stations, cheerful locals, and a sense of pride in being part of the Mother Road's history. And did you know the 1951 International Harvester boom truck seen in the Pixar movie Cars was inspired by a truck the movie producer saw in Galena, Kansas? And for the record, the locals call that truck Tow Tater to distinguish it from its movie role, Tow Mater. Oklahoma surprised me. I'd visited its cities before, but Route 66 guided us through small towns bursting with personality. We saw larger than life characters while driving through Veneta, including Big Bill, Big Boy, and Big Chief. Tulsa's Hard Rock Casino was a change of pace, and I won a little money while there. But it's the oddball roadside attractions, giant sculptures, neon signs, and even a spaceman in Weatherford that really define Oklahoma's stretch. As a fifth generation Texan, crossing into the Lone Star State felt like coming home. Our first stop was lunch at the Tower Station and U Drop In Cafe, a 1936 Art Deco classic in the town of Shamrock. When we arrived at the cafe, the Tesla charging station stood out, but not due to their nostalgia. While they contrasted with the history of the drive, they were almost full of other Route 66 trekkers along the Mother Road. The menu was small, but the food was delicious and ended up being our favorite dining spot the entire trip. The weather in Amarillo had other plans, so we missed a few favorites like Slugbug Ranch and Cadillac Ranch. I've visited them more times than I can count. The Big Texan Steak Ranch is always worth a stop, even if you're not up for the 72-ounce challenge. A detour to Paladuro Canyon is a must if you have time. It's the second largest canyon in the U.S., and unlike the Grand Canyon, you can drive right to the bottom. Reaching the Midpoint Cafe in Adrian is a real milestone, as once you arrive, you know you're halfway to the end of Route 66. In New Mexico, we chose the northern route to Pecos and Santa Fe, skipping Albuquerque this time. Pecos National Historical Park is a must-see, known as the Gettysburg of the West. I had visited Gallup before and stayed at the historic El Rancho Hotel, once a base for Hollywood stars like John Wayne and Katharine Hepburn. Even if you don't stay there, you should definitely stop in for the nostalgia. Santa Rosa's Blue Hole was a new discovery for me, an 80-foot deep, spring-fed pool used for swimming and scuba training. The color and clarity are amazing. A couple were diving when we arrived. We chose to view it rather than jump in. Then it was on to Arizona, the national park lover's dream. We drove through the painted desert and petrified forest, both as stunning now as on both of our first visits years ago. Williams, Winslow, and Holbrook all offered that classic Route 66 vibe, but the Grand Canyon was the star. If you're taking this trip, don't miss the chance to see it, even if it means a detour. Seeing its majestic beauty is worth the additional miles. My aunt mentioned before we left that she wanted us to tackle the road to Oatman, famous for its wild burrows and 191 hairpin turns. It's a white-knuckle drive, but Oatman's Old West feel and the friendly donkeys make it worth it. Crossing into California, we knew the adventure was almost over. Needles and Barstow rolled by, but San Bernardino's rain brought our drive to a close. No Santa Monica Pier this time, but I've been before and can attest that it's worth the finish line photo. Nearly 2,500 miles later, just on the route, we had done it. We drove Route 66 on its 100th birthday. Our return to Texas took us along the southern route, giving us new perspectives and time to reflect on what we'd experienced. More than 2,500 miles, hundreds of towns, and countless memories. With the FIFA World Cup coming to the U.S., it's the perfect time for international visitors to see the real America. Not just the stadiums, but the small towns, diners, and open roads that make this country unique. If you're planning a World Cup trip, I hope you will take time to drive at least a stretch of the Mother Road. Route 66 isn't just a highway. It's a piece of living history, a ribbon of adventure stretching across the continent. Whether you drive it all at once or just a few sections at a time, you'll leave with stories, photos, and a sense of just how big and welcoming both Texas and the USA can be. That's a wrap for this episode, y'all. Make sure to follow How Big is Texas on social media or visit howbigisTexas.com for more adventures. A friendly review would make my day. Until next time, from Texas, safe travels.